Welcome back, Math 10-3. Today's lesson, we're going to go through Chapter 1.3 and Chapter 1.4. Chapter 1.3 talks specifically about hourly wage. And like I mentioned, you need materials, blank notes, and number 2, your calculator. I want you to prepare these two materials. Now, Chapter 1.3, hourly wage, will be one of the most useful lesson that you probably learn as a high school students, because some of you guys will do or have been doing some work. It can be fast food, it can be any type of clerk in a grocery store, something like that. And you guys generally receive hourly wage. And when it comes to Chapter 1.4, we're going to learn about overtime and how we can actually calculate some overtime. Now, easy calculation that you need to be familiar with is basically your calculation on page 10 that you can see from classroom example. Rachel earns $12.45 per hour as a cashier at a grocery store. Last week, she worked 35 hours. It is a good idea to utilize some given clues from each of the scenario. One of the important values that you have to use is basically this wage, $12.45 per hour. As you may notice, this per hour, as soon as you see those, think about it as unit analysis. And this wage, whenever you have different units, something above, something below, like a fraction way, you need to understand that this is basically an application of ratio. So I'm using a ratio whenever I'm doing some hourly wage calculation. But once you list some of these clues, after that is very straightforward. The only thing that I want you to understand is, as you may notice, I am literally making this fraction, the one with the slanted one, as numerator and denominator. And here's the thing. You are trying to find out my gross income, which is dollar and cent. You're not interested in per hour and something like that. That means I have to somehow cancel this hour. And the only way you can do is multiply by hour, which is 35 hour. And hour cancel each other because of cross multiplication. And then what I need to do now is just using your calculator. 12.45 times by 35 gives me $435.75. And that is how much one can earn. In this case, Rachel earns. Another classic example, which is also available on page 10. Denzel works at a tire manufacturing plant and earns $10.20 per hour. So I have wage that is given, which is like a ratio if you guys remember. And the amount, like I mentioned, is $10.20. As you may notice, I'm already putting it as an hour and as a fraction. When he works the evening or night, he earns shift premium, which is basically a little bit of a bonus amount because you're working outside of the regular hours, like day hours versus night hours. Night hours, some works basically receive extra because you're sacrificing your sleeping time. And that shift premium, which I'm going to write down over here, which is also ratio if you look at the question over here, is $1.15 per hour. These two wages is what you have from that question on page 10. Now, the question also continue. Last month, he worked 80 hours a day on a day shift. And when it comes to time 2, which I'm going to go time prime, how much? 40 hours, and that's nighttime. And what was his gross income for the money? So let's talk about our regular amount first. So what I need to do first of all is basically understanding about regular workout time. So what I mean by that is this. This shift premium is like your bonus. It's additional amount with the condition, and the condition is nighttime. But when you look at the total time of the work, it is 120 hours. So here's what you need to do. We need to use this 120 hours with $10.20 per hour calculation. So number one, $10.20 per hour times by 120 hours cancel each other, and I can just calculate over here. 10.20 multiplied by 120 gives me 1,224. This is your regular wage per hour. Have that in your mind, because now what I need to do is number 2 calculation, my bonus calculation. $1.15 per hour times by my nighttime was 40 hours. So if I do the same thing, 1.15 times 40, you will have $46 as a bonus. And if you talk about gross income, that's addition of those two. So your answer will be $1,270. That is Denzel's total income for that month, including the shift premium. Now let's talk about our next chapter, 1.4. We basically talk about calculating income, but this time overtime. And when it comes to overtime, generally people receive wage for that certain overtime as factor of 1.5, which is called as time and a half way of getting the money. And when it comes to these income, you need to understand that it really depends on your work style. Actually, work style is a bad way. It's more of depends on your employer. Let's put it that way. Is that a private company? Is that a government? Is that a contractor? Because if it's contractor situation, overtime can be iffy. Or if it's related to commission, overtime may be out of the picture. Like I am a teacher, and during this COVID-19 situation, I'm working a lot of overtime, but I do not get overtime money. However, we get salary, certain amount of money that you expect every month, something like that. Now, without further ado, I like to go through the example on page 15, and I'm going to explain to you how you can use overtime works. So let's get this started. Astrid works in the oil and gas industry near Fort McMurray, Alberta. She earns, so wages given, which is like a ratio if you remember, it is $28.30 per hour, per 1 hour. And it makes double time for hours worked beyond 40 each week. And calculate Astrid's gross income for 45.25 is my total time hour. Now here's the thing. 45.25 0.25 hour, it's already bigger than 40 hour. If it's above 40 hour, you do double time. That means the wage is simply double during that time. So that means we need to figure out when do you actually get the double time. This, if I subtract 45 by 40, this 5.25 hours is the time where you're gonna get double time wages. On the other hand, when it comes to 40 hour, you're just getting a normal wage. So here's what you need to do. First thing first, normal time. $28.30 per hour, 1 hour, times by 40.00 hour. That's a unit analysis, and I can just punch these numbers in. 28.30 multiplied by with 40 give me $1,132. That's my regular salary. Now, overtime salary. In this case, it specifically have double time as an example, which is hourly wage multiplied by 2. So my condition is, instead of 28.30, we are multiplying that amount by 2, which is 56.60 per 1 hour. But the thing is, the overtime was 5 hour and quarter. And that's what I need to multiply. Times by 5.25 gives me 297.15 cents. So I have my regular amount, I have my overtime amount, and these two should be adding up together. So plus 1132 gives me as a total 1,429.15 cents. That is the amount that Asterisk should get as a gross income for that week, I like to say. And that is today's lesson, folks. You will see my homework announcement right after this video.